We are live.
We are live. How fancy are we?
Okay, let me turn my volume up so I can hear everything.
Perfect.
Get nice
okay?
up close and personal to my face, guys. Yes. All right. Should we wait like a minute for people to jump in?
Yeah, I think that sounds smart. I mean, we can check in. How you doing?
Girls, how you doing?
How you doing? Hey, how you doing? I mean, it's a Monday, sister.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling very tired today.
Yeah, this nor'easter is like, ugh. I'm not into it.
Can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you quite nicely.
Okay.
Let's hope the others. Maybe folks can give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Yes, guys, if you can hear us well, throw us a thumbs up. If you can't hear us, also please tell us.
Yeah, send us like a, that's an emoji, right? Like one finger. All right.
Okay,
Baby B
great.
with the thumbs up. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So let me tell you guys what we plan on doing today, and then Victoria, you can introduce yourself a little bit for if you missed the podcast episode that we did last week.
Somebody missed it?
Oh my God, how could they possibly have done that, right? Okay.
Okay,
so
focus.
today we're going to be talking about boundaries, stress management, and boundary setting in the age of COVID, and why this is important. What can happen if we don't set those boundaries? Basically, we just explode. But we'll go into that. And then what are the types of boundaries that we can set? And we're going to try and keep this to like 20-25 minutes. So if you guys got to dip out, you can always come back in and watch it on my story later. So Victoria, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
With joy. Hi, my name is Victoria Albina. I use she, her pronouns. I am a life coach, holistic nurse practitioner, and host of the podcast Feminist Wellness. And I'm here on the Instagram at Victoria Albina Wellness. And I'm coming to you live from occupied Lenape territory, also known as Brooklyn, New York City. Cool. Those are my words.
Those are my words. And if you guys are coming over from Victoria's, my name is Dana. I'm a dietitian, nutritionist, and bioimage coach, and this is my Instagram. So hopefully you know who I am. Okay, so I don't think we even really need to talk about stress because everyone's feeling it from so many sides, right? We talked about this on the podcast last week. So if you guys want to hear us talk about the different types of stress and how it affects the body, not only on a psychological level, but on a physiological level, we did like a whole hour on that. So we won't waste any of your time here talking about that. But let's talk about one of the ways that we can help manage that stress. So let's talk about boundaries a little bit. Like, what are boundaries and what are some of the things that we can do in order to help set some boundaries during this time?
So I think of boundaries as resentment prevention and stress prevention. Because a boundary is when you say what works for you, your physical body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your energy space, and what doesn't. Thank you very much. And so for me, key to setting healthy boundaries is being in touch with yourself, having that awareness, knowing what you want, you need, what works for you, what doesn't. And then being able to speak it, which is sometimes the super duper like challenging, oh my gosh, part of it. And what I promise is that setting the boundary, no matter how cringeworthy it is for you, is so much better than rolling around in resentment and anger and like energy. So when I think of a boundary, here's the way I frame it, and I'd love to hear if you frame it differently. For me, it's if you do X, then I will do Y. So the like really banal example that's actually not currently relevant in that no one's coming into my house is if you want to come into my house, you have to take your shoes off because New York City's disgusting. So you don't have to take your shoes off, but if you want to come in, you do, right? So if you come into my house with your shoes on, I will ask you to step out and take them off. You are an adult. You can make choices. Pick one. I don't care. And it's that I don't care. It's that it's not about me. right? It's I'm taking care of me over here in my hula hoop of influence, and you do you in yours. And the place where they meet, let's discuss that place and like what that looks like. But I'm not trying to control you. I'm simply taking care of me. No guilt, no shame, no BS, just you do you. But if you want to come in here, here's what that looks like, right? So like my partner and I have a really firm boundary that we will not raise our voices during an argument, and we will not swear. We're New Yorkers, so we swear like crazy, but we will not swear at each other. So like F this is fine, but F you, no. Mm-hmm. And we've set the boundary. If you do one of those two things, I will walk away. And that's what that will be. And you'll set a 5-minute timer and give me space, and then you can attempt some repair. So that's how I think about boundaries.
Yeah. And adding on to that, I think another way that people can think about it is kind of like setting a standard for yourself and then also holding yourself to that standard, right? So if my standard is in my house, no one wears shoes because it's disgusting outside, right? Then that's your standard. Mm-hmm. And if someone comes in and they're not meeting your standard, AKA they don't want to take their shoes off, it's like, okay, that's nothing against you. You just need to, then the second part of that is upholding it, right? It's not rolling over and being like, oh, it's okay, but, I'm just going to have to clean my whole house later and whole thing. And, and this is like a very, maybe like silly or like mundane example. But so what we want to get into is like, why do we need to set boundaries during, well, all of the time, but especially during this time right now, right? Like, why do we need to be setting boundaries during this global pandemic, and what can this look like?
Right. Yeah. So for those of us who live with another human or 12, right, like wherever we live, this is an unprecedented time for most of us who used to do wild sounding things like go to the store whenever you wanted, go to brunch with a girlfriend, go to work, take a subway, walk in the park. Wild and crazy. No, but it's like, wait, we used to do that? Right, but we used to have these built-in breaks, right? This built-in alone time, this built-in time for connection with mammals other than the mammals with whom we live. And so we used to have more like a release valve, you know what I mean? And most of us don't have that these days. Also, everyone is coping with this in their own totally perfect, totally amazing individual ways. I personally, it doesn't serve me to be watching the news, reading the death count, like that stuff doesn't serve me. I have a lot of friends at CDC, NIH. We've been talking about this getting to this level since January. Like, I'm done. And so if someone comes into my space and they're like, like a phone call with a friend, I don't know why my friend's a coyote, but let's pretend she is. And my friend's like, hey, I heard, New York lost X number of people this week. And I'm like, I feel myself getting into that sympathetic activation that we talked about on the podcast. That's my chance to check in with myself and to say like, hey, Vic, do you want to hear about this? No, this doesn't really, I'm getting activated. And from my history, I have a touch of hypervigilance already. I don't need it. I don't want it. No, thank you. Hey, babe, if you keep talking, I'm like not really into hearing the death rate kind of stuff right now. If you keep talking about it, I'm just gonna have to hop off the phone. It's like real gentle, real loving, right? Boundaries don't have to be like a smack in the face. And they also don't have to be a brick wall. I think you were alluding to this, right? Like we get to hold them up and we get to decide when they're flexible and flow with it. But yeah, there's a lot of challenging inputs coming into our psychic and energetic spheres right now. Yeah. What are boundaries looking like in your life that are like new, different?
Yeah, so it's been interesting because I am one of the people who lives by themselves, right? But then also with my dog. Right. And so boundaries for me as someone who is like definitely part introverted, but then also part extroverted.
Right.
Like I love going out and meeting people, but then I like really need to recharge. And that second part, the I need to be alone and recharge, is being activated a lot right now.
Yeah.
I try not to watch the news a lot for that very reason, right? I try and not read nonfiction books for that reason. Like, I love reading fiction books and, trying to not get caught up in everything. But then one thing that I'm finding is, especially for people who are introverted or just feeling very overwhelmed, which, hello, everyone, right, is that for some people, resting and recharging means doing a virtual cooking date, means doing a virtual book club, like means doing all of these, virtual happy hours and FaceTiming constantly and things. For me, that's amazing, but not rejuvenating for me.
Right.
So that's been one of the boundaries that I have to explore and like set for myself is like, I would love in theory to do that every day, but I know it would just completely wear me out, and then I don't feel refreshed and recharged going into the next day. And I think that's kind of a taboo thing to talk about right now, because people are like, oh, social distancing, but like maintain as much connection as possible. And like, yes, but think about what you need also, right? So like, I have a standing like Zoom check-in or like happy hour or whatever with some of my friends on like Fridays, usually Monday nights, and then like on the weekends I'll do one with my family. And then if I want to do something else like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, like those are open. Sometimes it's just like a random call with a friend, like whatever it is. But most of the other nights I really need to just like read, like watch a funny show, or one of the other things that if you're an entrepreneur, I think setting a boundary during this time that you're not going to be working constantly, right? That's actually been especially hard for me as someone, like we talked about this on the podcast. I don't like to feel the feelings all the time, especially now because it's very overwhelming, right? And so one way that I in the past and currently have used to distract myself is by throwing myself into my work. So even just last week, I was saying like, I have a lot of trouble sitting on the couch and just watching TV for hours and hours, which people are going to be like, what is wrong with you? Right. But like, that's just me. I know myself. Right. Yeah. And so I'm like, the reason I keep doing that is because when everything slows down, then I can start to think about everything, and then I can start to panic. And so one way that I was thinking last week is like, oh, if I wanted to, I could just work. And then I was like, whoa. That's not a healthy coping mechanism.
Right.
Yeah. So like, thinking about where is that boundary there? Where can I take a pause?
Right.
What do I really need right now? And then trying to feel into that.
Right. If I may I coach you for just a little second?
Please. I am open to it.
Thank you. Always consent-based here. So I actually see all of those impulses, those desires to buffer. It's a term I use in my coaching, which to push away feelings, right? To put a buffer between you and the feels. All of those impulses are actually a strength. My work is always strengths-based, right? Whether it's overeating, using substances to, in excess, watching TV, working, they all come from a place of your inner child loving the effing F out of you and not wanting you to die. And so if feeling the feels got coded at some point in your history as a terrible, scary, oh my God thing, then your inner child loves you so much and wants you to just work and work and work and work so you don't die. And for me, when I can address my inner child like that and can be like, oh, you tender little angel, like you sweet little sweet potato. You think that if I stop working and stop, for me, not projecting onto you, if I don't fulfill my perfectionist fantasies of being all things to all people and always being of service to prove my worth and all of that, but if I pause that, death is certain and fast coming. Like, oh, it's sweet, right? Like I can bring that sweetness in for her and can then have a conversation with her as my own inner child's most loving adult parent to say like, all right, babe, here's how it works for grown-ups. You know how you have bath time and you have book time? I'm twice as big, so I need twice as much. And that's the conversation we had this weekend.
Think about it.
Right? And she was like, oh, yeah, all right, because I get a bath every night for an hour, and then I get a book for an hour, so you can have 2 of each. And I was like, okay, cool. bargaining with 6-year-olds internally. But it's, for me, that feels like loving parenting, to honor those protector parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love what you're bringing up of like really checking in, like what's really up for me here,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. So what about for you? What do some of your boundaries look like during this time?
Yeah. So the one about like, please don't come at me with like epidemiology. As an epidemiologist, like I don't want to hear the mortality and morbidity rates. I don't want to hear about the Tent City Hospital in Central Park. Like I worked in the Tent City Hospital in Haiti after the earthquake. I don't need to go back to there right now in my own head. You know what I mean? Like, so that is like my number one biggest boundary. It's been really interesting, and was literally today writing an episode of the Feminist Wellness podcast about triangulation, which is when two people in a relationship try to bring a third person in sort of to buffer against their feelings. And so this looked like two dear friends of mine who recently broke up, who have been on the phone like, oh my God, Vic, and then Chris said this, and oh my God, and then Megan said this, and those are fake names, BT dubs.
We don't throw friends under the bus here.
Hell no. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. But yeah, so like really just staying really clear in my own energy field and like what the energy of the communications that I'm allowing in are. And just really staying present to like, oh, what's the sort of like under message of this? Is it freak out with me? Is it be against this person with me? Is it get angry with me? I am not entertaining a lot of like political conversations around the whole vaccine thing, around the current administration and what they are not doing. I will entertain all praise of Fauci. But, you know, I'm like, it's just not in my sphere right now. It has been, it will be. But that's the beauty of boundaries, right? Like a boundary by definition, I think of the cellular membrane, right? It's a flexible, semi-permeable thing, not a wall.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about, okay, I'm going to give you guys an action item to do today. Think about what you need in terms of boundaries, and it's going to be different for every person, right? So like for me, if you're feeling a little bit more introverted right now, it's okay to say no to many things, right? But especially like you don't need to do a FaceTime every night. You don't need to do, you don't need to be productive every single day, right? Especially because if you're trying to work from home and you're not used to doing that, and you've got people, you've got pets, you've got kids, significant others, whatever, like that's already adding a lot of stress onto your day while you're just trying to be like normal level of productive that you do at work, which is near impossible to do at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So trying not to like pile more on your plate, but think about specifically your situation. What are some neat things that you need to set boundaries around, or maybe not need, but like it would do very well for you to set some boundaries here, right?
Right.
Because don't let this be another thing to add onto your plate and then you feel bad about that you're not doing it, right?
Yeah.
So once you've thought about that, let's think about Victoria and I, some of the things that can happen if we just completely ignore the need for those boundaries.
Yeah. So one of the primary focuses of my work is supporting women to overcome codependency so they can take their lives back. And so one of the hallmarks of codependency is this energy of you first, me second, right? Where you're like living on the crumbs of your own life and your own life force energy, right? So really checking in, what do I as a living, breathing mammal want and need today? Where's my energy level at? So this is something I teach my clients to do in non-COVID times, like a daily 2-3 times a day, like an adrenal check-in, like how's my energy? And especially like extra, especially right now, like 0 to 10, where 10 is like a little hyper and 0 is comatose. Where you at, baby? And so if you're like, yeah, I'm at a 4 right now, y'all can cook your own dinner, right? But things like that, for real. Like, I am going to invite other people to take care of themselves, other adults, right? Please feed the baby and the fragile elder and the dog. But other like grown up adults can make their own meals, can get their own water, can make their own tea, can run their own bath, can do their own laundry, can take out the garbage, right? Like not falling into that Atlas syndrome. I think of codependency and Atlas, right? The weight of the whole world on your shoulders for no good reason. You get to use this time to practice what it feels like to like take that weight off and see what it's like to live without it. What comes up for you?
Yeah, well, first, before I go on to me, so when you just said that, I was like, well, taking on everyone else's responsibilities and feeling like we have to do everything for ourselves as well already feels like you have the world on your shoulders. Right now, during this time, we literally it feels like we have the entire world on our shoulders without any of that. Like, just every time you watch the news, I feel like I literally can feel the spike in cortisol in my body. And I'm just like, get me out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I kind of went into this a little bit before, but like when I start to notice like, oh my God, I'm so overbooked. Actually, it just happened today. Like I was supposed to do a podcast interview after this afternoon. And I emailed them this morning and I was like, look, I'm so sorry, but I'm just not feeling it today. Like my brain is not here. Like obviously I'm showing up for you guys. So clearly I can turn it on when we're talking about this stuff. But when we're talking about more nutrition science and, other stuff like that, I'm just not here today.
Yep.
And so, just not being a bitch about it or anything, but just saying like, I would love to do this another time. I'm just really not feeling it today. Plus it would be on my podcast. And I was like, I want to make sure that I show up for you guys because it's like an opportunity for you to come on. This is an opportunity for me to have a great conversation for you. I don't want to be like, monkey mind all over the place. So thinking about that, and then, if you're feeling a day when it's just like cloudy and rainy and there's crazy weather in addition to everything that's going on, it's like okay to take a longer lunch break when you can in between meetings and like read a nonfiction book, which is exactly what I plan on doing today. And maybe like take out some time to take a bath instead of a shower, or diffuse some essential oils, or like take time to take stock of how you're doing. Yes. And I think we need to do this not only on a daily basis, but on like a couple times a day basis of like, all right, how am I doing? Am I feeling super overwhelmed? And then, acknowledging that when you might have a bunch of meetings back to back for work that you can't cancel, like that's okay. And then realizing that you might not be able to show up 100% in those meetings. Figure out which ones you do need to be there 100% on and focus all of your energy into that so that you don't feel you're half-assing everything, basically.
Right. I love that advice. That's really thoughtful. So again, in that like 0 to 10, where can I really turn it on? I love that concept of like thinking of like, I think of myself as like a little motor, like when can I rev it up? One of the things that's been really helpful for me lately, and I also just wrote a podcast episode about this that I think is coming out. It's like another bonus episode of Feminist Wellness coming out this week. I don't even know anymore. Let's be real. I have no idea.
Day is it? April
I think it's the
28th.
24/7. I have no idea. Where am I? Why am I in this basket? Let's be real. Okay, wait. Oh, right. Okay, so I feel like my brain has gotten unmanaged. My brain will like get hijacked. And I say that because like I recognize I have conscious, thoughtful, cognitive control to like reshape and reframe the story, which is literally my life's work, is to teach people that. But sometimes I'll find myself in this sensation that like my brain's escaped me and is worrying or in overwhelm or like in any of those sort of like indulgent-y feeling emotions. And what I've been doing instead of just like letting that wax and wane as it wishes is scheduling cry about it time. So when I do Monday Hour 1, which is the calendaring system that I do and teach, where I plan out the whole week, I actually write in like these like hour-long or half-hour-long blocks throughout my day and throughout the week to like literally like listen to Dustin O'Halloran or on like someone who makes me cry on the Spotify and just like lie on the floor and cry about the state of humanity and think about like grandmas in the Bronx who can't pay their rent and people who are like choosing more than ever between vital medication and food, like the real suffering that's going on. I've had 3 friends and 2 patients lose a parent. I know. Yeah, so I have a real good cry about it and a mashing of fists and a just like, oh, on purpose every day because it's in here. And there's no BSing and pretending that all, like you, at the top of this time together, you were like, the stress is in us.
Yeah.
And it is. Like, I've been like doling out sleep supplements like crazy because, you know, even if we don't feel stressed, our bodies are showing us the signs of stress. So yeah, making conscious time to attend to those feelings and to like actively work them out of my system and journal about them and cry has been just so helpful. And it's really helped me to be more focused in other times. And also by calling that time productive.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is productive time. I am producing and holding space for myself, which is a gift to humanity, but also mostly a gift to me, but then also a gift to humanity. Right?
Yeah. Well, then even that time allows you to recharge and do whatever you need to do so that you can show up for your clients, for your patients, for everything else that you're doing and putting there out in the world too.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things I'm always really conscious of is that you can only take the people in your healing care, like in your world, as deep as you're willing to go yourself. And so if I'm not holding space for like a conscientious cosmic meltdown every day, right? What am I holding and not transmuting that will block me from being able to be someone's best coach, to like do breath work and hold the space that allows people to go really deep? And like the health at all sizes food work that you do is like so profound and can touch so many triggers. Like, I'm so glad that you're holding space for yourself, babe, because
yeah, it can be a lot. And you know what? It's very hard for everyone during this time who's ever, you know, thought about doing a diet or controlling their food or, you know, had any kind of dysfunctional relationship with their body or their looks or, you know, whatever it is. And so, like, if you're having thoughts like that, of course that's happening. You know, like the answer isn't to just shove them away and be like, I'm not allowed to have these anymore. It's, oh, of course I'm having those thoughts like
right.
that. I understand.
Yep.
And then once you've met that with compassion and understanding, then you can decide, 1, is there anything that I can do about it? 2, do I have the capacity to do anything about it right now? Because that's the other thing is like, you know, you can try it, you can want to read all of the like body positive, health at every size books and podcasts and, you know, listen to mine and all of the things, but it takes a lot of headspace and not everybody has that headspace right now. No one has that space all the time right now. You might not even have it this entire week or next week, you know, like thinking about no matter where you are on, you know, how things are going for you right now, just giving yourself a little bit of like grace and compassion that like everything's, you know, no, I don't want to say everything's okay. Everything's not okay. The way that you are dealing with everything is okay. And it's understandable.
Right. Yes. Very well rephrased. Right there.
Not okay. Let's be clear.
Yeah. Everything's a shitstorm, especially says NYC. But yes. But also like you can connect in with the 1 millisecond of presence in which it is okay. Right. That one breath.
Yeah.
In which everything for one breath is okay. But
actually, I just read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and he would argue that there's actually no suffering if you're living in the present. And I'm like, clearly you haven't lived through a global pandemic, but
yeah,
understand what you're going for.
Yeah. Yeah. I like both totally get that in that like that is part of what I teach. And I do think we need to hold that within like an understanding of the multiplicities of systems of
Mhm.
oppression and being, you know, a woman, a person of color, you know, a survivor of whatever, being queer, being trans, et cetera,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera is
Right.
a lot. But
Uh, I know,
also,
it's like
yes.
rich coming from a white male.
A white, I don't know if he's straight, but
I would
cis what?
assume, but you know, who knows?
I mean, you never know. But
That's
yeah.
really true.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you, babe. But
Yeah. Okay, cool.
yeah,
So let's close this down for
yeah.
people. We've been going for a while.
I love
So
talking with you. You're like the
yeah,
most funnest.
I know this is really fun. We should definitely do this again. Maybe we'll make this
Let's
a
do it.
weekly thing
I'm
for
into it.
you guys.
I'm here.
Um, yes, cool. Okay, we'll talk about that off air. We can decide
Okay,
on our
great.
next topic. If people want to come find you, where can they come find you?
Well, thank you, Dana. So here on the Instagram, Victoria Albina Wellness. It's the same on the Facebook. Who goes to Facebook? Not moi. It's a lot over there. It's just a lot. My podcast is free. It's called Feminist Wellness. It's for humans of all genders, and it's free. It's on the Apple iTunes, the Stitcher, whatever the other ones are called. It's there. It's
All the
weekly, all the things. What else? Those are the places, I think. VictoriaAlbina.com is my website. I have a set of free meditations. There is one about boundary setting. There's an inner child one. They're for free. They're right at the top of the webpage. You kind of can't miss it. Go get them. Why not? Price is right.
price is right and the price is free.
Exactly. Yay.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Victoria. Thank you everyone for coming. And we will see you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay healthy, stay
Bye.
well,
Thank
breathe.
you.